Welcome to Group 2's project on coffee shops. This study is about the differences between independently owned coffee shops and Starbucks. We were interested in how can independent coffee shops survive in a Starbucks world. We conducted observational, secondary, and primary research for this study. Our goal is to be able to provide an owner of an independently owned coffee shop a resource of information. We began our research by observing. Our group is composed of students from New Jersey, Georgia, and California. Each of us spent observation time in independently owned coffee shops and Starbucks following the AEIOU framework, which gave us a wealth of information about customer-employee behaviors, the layout and flow of the stores, the effects of location and interior environments. From this observation, we became interested in how can an independently owned coffee shop compete successfully against the streamlined, big money-back Starbucks chain. Next, we set to work on our secondary research. This gave us a foundation in understanding the history of Starbucks and their current business strategy. We found out that Starbucks' biggest threats are not the other coffee chains, but the independently owned coffee shop. We also found that independently owned coffee shops were seeing an increase in traffic. There are also two items that came up in secondary research that we were able to confirm in our primary research. Information that customers are willing to pay more for quality coffee, and that there are online tools and third-party vendors available to streamline the independent-owned coffee shop if they want to be more like Starbucks. Our problem statement is, with the rise of the corporate-owned coffee shops and customers' desires for streamlined processes, how can independent coffee shops be successful while maintaining their local status among current customers? Our opportunity statement is, there is an opportunity to help independent coffee shops continue to resonate with local customers while modernizing processes, enabling them to financially compete with large corporate-owned coffee shops like Starbucks. And our umbrella question was, how might we use design thinking to help independent coffee shops' processes while celebrating local culture within communities? Through our statements, we already see that we will need to define what is independent, how will we define culture, and how will we define design thinking. And again, our goal is to provide independently owned coffee shop owners with information to help them run their businesses. Our research matrix breaks down our umbrella questions and adds sub-questions, such as which functions of a coffee shop do we plan to study. We decided that we wanted to focus on the customer instead of on coffee shop operations. Next is our timeline for the research. Our timeline is represented visually by starting with a watered-down Americano to a confused Frappuccino to the perfectly made espresso. As we built our research protocol, we decided early on that we wanted to use the triangulation method in data collection, investigators, and methodology. Our data was paper, online, and audio. All students on the project conducted each type of research, and we used on-site observations, short and long format in-person interviews, and an online survey. Our questionnaires and surveys were designed to narrow down and understand the customers coming in for coffee, what they did for a living, and why they chose to come to that particular location, their personal preferences, and as much insight as we could into any common threads connecting these customers to one another from independently owned coffee shop versus Starbucks. For most of our on-site interviews, we randomly selected participants. Our online surveys were treated a little differently as we started to narrow down the information needed. These questionnaires were posted on independent coffee house forums. We felt these methodologies gave us a good balance of people who may be just stopping in to have a quick coffee with no connection to the establishment, and to regulars who are more invested in the location and community. These next pages are from our mural board's data collection. This first mural board is from Princeton, New Jersey. People in Princeton preferred going to an independent coffee shop over Starbucks. These people also believed that taste and environment were the most important factors in purchasing coffee. The Starbucks people answered accessibility and cost for their most important factor when purchasing their coffees. The male participants had no comment on the environments of their coffee shops or Starbucks. In fact, they were perfectly content in the environment in both locations. None of them had anything negative to say about either location. Another interesting takeaway was the dislike of Starbucks from the independent coffee shop lovers. The Starbucks lovers had no negative things to comment on for independently owned coffee shops, while the independent coffee shop lovers showed an emphasis on their disliking of Starbucks in general. This next mural board, also from New Jersey but near Hackensack. 2 females and 1 male at Starbucks, and 2 males and 1 female filled out a questionnaire at an independent shop. 1 employee from each shop participated. While the genders were split evenly overall, with 3 women and 3 men, it was not split evenly between business types, independent and chain. The majority of the participants were ages 18 to 24 and made from $25,000 to $49,000 a year. Overall, they all purchased 1 coffee a week and visit coffee shops more spontaneously than routinely. Some of the key takeaways included the important factor of workplace location and coffee shop visits. One participant mentioned that one should always know the nearest cafe to their workplace. Another key takeaway included the use of coffee shops in gentrifying certain neighborhoods. One participant mentioned he would only support coffee shops that are non-gentrifying. From analyzing this data and a brainstorming exercise provided potential answers to 3 of the matrix questions, as well as developing 3 more to keep a steady sense of curiosity. This next mural board is from Georgia. Through further research, observation, and interview, we found that community involvement is an important aspect for independence besides taste, location, and interior environment. A majority of participants said that independents should somehow work with the local community and support the community. This indicated that our customer was looking for more than what Starbucks can offer, a bulletin board or a national charity program. During the interviews, every participant mentioned that part of the experience they enjoyed at an independent is the interior decoration. Starbucks at all locations look the same, but independently owned coffee shops have their own personalities. Interiors make people feel warm and feel like home, which creates an enjoyable experience. An interesting result from the interviews is few student participants mentioned that they enjoy a unique taste, while customers aged 40 to 50 mentioned the quality of the products that independents offer and that they are willing to spend time and money on good quality coffees. This mural board is data gathered from the online survey which was posted on coffee forums. The online survey was long and separated by independent and Starbucks questions. The previous surveys combined with this one is where we start to see patterns that help us move into our long-form recorded interviews. For example, we found out that taste was more important than price, unique experiences were more important than streamlined, friendly and efficiency were expected, and items like online apps were not important at all. New questions appeared that we could now address with our long interviews, questions that were deeper and more cultural, such as, further explain your decision-making process of why you go to Starbucks or why do you go to an independent. Does the consumer think of location when considering a coffee shop as an independent? Is a commitment to community involvement a decision-making factor? What physical elements and experiences make a coffee shop feel like part of the community or reflect that community's culture? Does representing the local culture influence your decision to frequent an independent coffee shop or designate it as independent? When does an independent lose its independent status for you as a customer? And do demographics or psychographics influence ideas of culture and its importance? This area of research is also where we first developed our tagging word system. Taste and consistency, speed and time, experience comfort, community, convenience location, service, technology efficiency, food, and price. Based on our previous data and newly formed questions, a brainstorming session took place which resulted in a mind map for each question. These included data from further interviews and conversation with coffee shop employees, emphasizing the impact of independent coffee shops on culture and economy. We found that consumers spend more time at independent coffee shops for the unique sense of style and community. They believe one of the most important types of context when developing a business plan for a coffee shop is site and location, and the hardest constraints when developing a business plan is finances and legalities. The first interviews, observations, and online surveys became the backbone for our long format interviews. Based on our experience with our first interviews, we refined our discussion guide to dig deeper and be more conversational. The conversational strategy worked well for cultural questions and emotion. Also, since these were recorded, the conversations flowed easily. The participants for these interviews were found by our gatekeeper at one of the independently owned coffee shops we were researching. This gave us strong participants and great insight to the coffee shop culture. We also added cultural probes and storytelling to our toolbox for these interviews. The photos allowed participants to point at the decor they liked or what customers they thought looked the friendliest. From these probes, we were able to get consistent insight to what was favored for the decor, how busy is too busy, seating arrangements, colors, or insight like Starbucks looks like a trade show exhibit. We also asked participants to tell us a story of one of their best or worst coffee shop experiences. The long-form recorded interviews were a wealth of information. Each question and answer led to more conversation. It was pretty amazing to start hearing the same type of input repeated by different participants. The takeaways: taste is important and expected, therefore hardly discussed. An independent coffee shop, by definition, would provide good coffee. Community and relationship is huge. It is all about human interactions with the staff and customers. Community involvement is great, but not a deal breaker. Community involvement is defined more by being part of the community vibe than giving to local charities. Service is a deal breaker. The consensus was that no coffee is that good to put up with bad service. Environment is to be warm, clean, and comfortable to spend time in. The environment should reflect its location and community. Location is important to the definition of an independent coffee shop. A mall, a mini mall are not considered locations for an independent coffee shop by definition. In addition, too many locations would reduce the unique experience and therefore be less authentically independent. A too homey environment is preferred to a too sterile environment. Convenience, technology, efficiency, and consistency in experience have not shown to be important. Independent coffee shop customers are looking for unique, authentic experiences that may be less convenient. At this point, our intuition is telling us that the customer is all about psychographics instead of demographics, meaning we are not getting a sense of age, education level, or income level, but instead these customers are connected by their behaviors, opinions, and emotions. At this point, we went back to review our demographics. When gathering all group members' statistical data, we have concluded that out of our surveys, 64% were women, 54% were in the age bracket of 25 to 40, 54% completed an undergraduate degree, 44% made an annual salary of $50,000 to $99,000, 31% were in the design profession, and the rest were dispersed among other professions. Our personas and empathy maps were created from our participants' demographic statistics and are 3 women ages 23, 28, and 45, 1 male age 26. All have degrees and make over $50,000 a year. They are all coffee lovers and half can work remotely. The empathy map shows how people go to the coffee shops in hopes of feeling calm, productive, and inspired on top of just wanting to get their coffees. Our stakeholder map puts the customer in the center, then shop owners, employees, outside vendors, and then the community. Our affinity map represents key quotes from participants in the long-form recorded interviews. These are broken up into our tag words. Again, starting to see the patterns that price, speed, efficiency, technology are not being mentioned. Taste and good service are expected, and it's all about location, environment, and community. These are a few of our aha moment quotes. I feel like the coffee shop doesn't reflect the community, but that the community is reflected in the coffee shop. With white tiles on white walls, with white Formica tables, there are hospitals that have more warmth. Enjoy the warm environment of coffee shops. Don't like Starbucks because they all look the same. While looking at one of the visual probes, I like what I see on the outside of the coffee shop. I like being part of the community, just being in the middle of the community. A view of the community is what I enjoy. Here's our research matrix with all the questions answered. We use this as a guide throughout the research process. As we look back, we now see that this matrix was just the tip of the iceberg. At this point, we revised our problem and opportunity statements. We removed streamlined processes from our original problem statement and developed a refined statement. How can independent coffee shops be successful, differentiate themselves from the ubiquity of Starbucks, and resonate with the coffee culture customer? We removed modernizing processes from our opportunity statement and now have, there is an opportunity to help independent coffee shops continue to resonate with coffee culture customer through strategic and thoughtful business decisions which will enable them to financially compete with Starbucks. Both of these revisions reflect our research that at this time the independently owned coffee shop customer is not interested in new technologies at their favorite coffee shop. We begin our design criteria with the must-haves, should-haves, and nice-to-have. The must-haves are taste and service are expected with no exceptions. Customer options like flavored syrups and non-dairy based creamers. Location should be in an urban community. The location should benefit the customer by offering activities. The interior environment should be a balance between warm and contemporary. The environment should be clean. Payment options should be cash, credit card, and debit card, and all the legal ADA accessibility and restrooms. The should-haves would be to use technology to benefit the customer but not hinder any kind of human interactions. A goal for community involvement should be to influence the community in a positive way through your existence. Provide conveniences that are unique to the location, for example, space for bikes if you're near a bike path, or blankets if you're near a foggy pier. Retail product offerings will support the brand through design, add warmth to the location, and continue the brand experience for the customer at home. And offer education nights where customers can learn how to taste coffee like an expert and sample new offerings. The nice to have would be like food, because you could create a relationship with local food providers that inherently support and build community spirit. Menu items that resonate with local community could be added, like a signature blend or a new unique creation. Working on site would have to be something that each individual coffee shop would have to look at based on their location, but it's not that expensive to offer Wi-Fi or electric outlets to charge devices. Flexible seating arrangements are good for building community. And then having a good flow is actually in nice to have and not in a must have, because most of our participants indicated that they liked the unique experience that an independent coffee shop would bring, and sometimes that means that the flow isn't always as perfect as in a Starbucks. Next in our design strategy is the pairing of key learnings to key recommendations. Independent coffee shop customers want human contact and relationships. Our recommendation is to develop a customer touchpoint map that focuses on human contact and authentic relationships. Independent coffee shop customers do not want streamlined technological solutions. Recommendation: all technology developed should be developed to benefit the customer and not hinder their need for human contact and relationship building. Taste, expertise, and service are expectations of an independent coffee shop. If you cannot offer taste and coffee expertise, do not consider opening an independent coffee shop. Hire staff based on their ability to offer good customer service as well as ability to prepare coffee. The infrastructure that powers a cafe should be hidden from the customer so that the focus can be on building relationships. There is a strong independent coffee shop culture that customers belong to who do not want a Starbucks experience. Recommendation: cater to this independent coffee shop culture over trying to emulate a Starbucks experience. Much attention should be placed on selecting location of an independent coffee shop. Recommendation: location of independent coffee shop should be urban, unique, offer activities, and be populated. Community involvement is about positively influencing a community by your existence within the community. Recommendation: community involvement should not be thought of as the tactic of donations to local charities or a bulletin board with flyers. Instead, all actions of the business community member should consider how they are affecting the community by their presence. This can be simply providing outdoor seating to incorporating the community story into the establishment's design from the ground up using cultural observations. There is a balance of warmth and contemporary in environment decisions that is preferred by a majority of independent coffee shop customers. Recommendation: when making interior architectural and decoration decisions, independent coffee shops should create warm, inviting environments that lean more toward the homey than to the sterile or scientific. A clarification and simplification of our hand-sketched mind map. Style of location and site location are deemed to be extremely important, and the hurdles for implementing creative solutions were financial constraints and perceived legal issues. We develop a revised journey map. The journey of the customer on both coasts and multiple locations is pretty much the same and expected. We revised the customer journey map to address minor issues in the journey and to point out some reminders. Issues like having a clear entrance and flow, welcoming people who don't look like regulars, call out the orders with a friendly shout out, a large and obvious pickup area for drinks, consider more communal tables. These suggestions are slight refinements and a confirmation of what independents have already been doing. An opportunity map was developed as a visual that correlates with our key findings and recommendation. This map harkens back to our tag words from interviews. The opportunities are broken out into categories. The visuals help the business owner to see where to put most of their time: relationships, experience and comfort, location, and service. An additional opportunity map was developed to focus on the issue that our research said was most important: human relationships. This map outlines at every customer touchpoint the opportunity for more human contact and relationship building. In conclusion, independent coffee shops can thrive regardless of Starbucks because there is a strong, like-minded customer who wants them to succeed. The attributes that make Starbucks desirable are not the attributes that the independent coffee shop customer are looking for in a coffee purchase experience. Our advice: ignore Starbucks.